All right. Good evening. Good evening. Give everybody a moment to get in the room, virtually get settled. We'll go ahead and get started in just a moment here. One thing I think we've discovered is since we've been utilizing Mobilize, that some folks, they realize they register for the meeting and then the Zoom link comes separately. They have to have that extra step that they have to follow, but it's a process and everything's always open for improvement. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Want to welcome you guys to the March. Wow, the March meeting of LD 11 Democrats. If we haven't met, I'm your chair, Patrick Brown, chair of LD 11. I want to welcome you if this is your first meeting, and thank you for taking some time out to come see what we do and learn about us. If this is like your, 100,000th meeting of the week, then we want to welcome you back and hope that, you get some good information about us and the things that are going on in our district. Before we get things going, we do have some meeting norms when it comes to how we operate our meetings. First thing is with cameras. If you want cameras on, off, that is cool. Just kind of up to you, your bandwidth and things of that nature. We do ask that, if you are recognized to speak, that if you could turn your camera on, we'd like to be able to see who's conversing with us. But if, like I said, if you're just attending, I leave that up to you. Other things, muting. By default, everyone's muted when they come into the meeting. We try and kind of keep some of the, distractions and stuff down for our speakers. We're going to ask that you stay muted unless recognized to speak, or of course, again, if you're on the agenda, you will be recognized to speak. If you have questions, comments, anything of that nature, please utilize the chat. Our board's awesome. They are checking the chat. I'm using not just because I'm doing the meeting thing here. So, but like I said, if you have questions or comments, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Also, any things that we talk about, links, stuff like that, you don't have to try and frantically necessarily write stuff down or, take pictures with your phone or whatnot. We'll make sure to drop that link in the chat if we reference a link. Also, again, this meeting is being recorded and we do post these to our YouTube channel and put in our monthly newsletter. So if you hear something or miss something that, you may want to hear one more time, then you can always reference that video. It usually comes out on Sunday, give or take. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get things going. Like I said, if you're the type of person that likes to kind of see where our journey will take us in this meeting, then you can follow along at home through our agenda. You'll be able to see, kind of how we're going to do the meeting. And we generally kind of stick pretty close to the agenda as best we can. Okay, and like I said, we've dropped that link in the chat. So let's go ahead and get into officer reports. I'll go ahead and kick things off. So one thing I want to talk about tonight is this idea, is a concept out there of democratic complacency. And people kind of wonder, what is democratic complacency? And so what it really is that, coming out of an election cycle, especially, because these election cycles have been kind of rough, the last couple of cycles, that it's really easy to definitely kind of really want to withdraw or overcorrect and overcompensate. And so when you kind of look at just to say we look at Arizona, we had a lot of good victories, we had a lot of big victories, maybe we can argue we had some surprising victories, while on the other side we did not do well in areas that we'd have liked to, or we had some unfortunate surprises when it came to some of the people running. So the thing is that now that we've kind of moved in what we could consider kind of like the off season and the preparation year, things like that, then it's really easy to kind of fall into, I guess you could say, complacency. And an example being is kind of completely just not even paying attention to anything going on at the state ledge. You're thinking oh, well, Governor Hobbs will veto if it's bad, those type of things. So what we kind of want to share with you guys tonight are a couple of things that you can do to, if you're either been doing this for a minute, you've been very active in this space, or if you've been someone who's very new, 2022 is your first real involvement, so you're kind of a lot of trial by fire. Here's some things that can, kind of some advice to kind of get you through 2023. The first one is something we like to call no assumptions, facts, not fear. So, with social media, with like, the news, with, just everything, a lot of things are always like end of the world stuff. And that's not to downplay that there are a lot of serious things going on and a lot of bad things. However, the thing is what can be very exhausting is if you act on, the kind of that, like I say, lizard brain, emotional, it's all, it's always like, end of the world type of stuff. So the thing is that, if you hear something troubling, try and take that breath, take that time to understand, is this like a big deal, or is this like a nothing burger, or is this, something that's like really out there to kind of get clicks? So try and, kind of go through those before kind of respond. And that could be something as simple as maybe you kind of don't share that item on social media, or you don't, suddenly, rage tweet because of like the headline, things of that nature. Next thing we want to kind of get to is the long-term nature of political work. The thing is that, politics, and we're in I guess we're in a society where, we definitely expect things to happen like right away, immediately. And so what the thing is, we have to understand that political work can and often does take time, is that it's not simply, it's going to happen in an individual's term of office. It's not going to happen like by the end of like the session. A lot of it is sometimes building blocks. And so it's hard to be patient because there are a lot of like important issues and a lot of like life or death stuff that's impacting our community and our society, where we want to see movement like yesterday. Or, we're saying like, oh, this has been an issue for, my parents dealt with it, my grandparents, those type of things. So we have to, understand that, yes, we want to have immediate action. We want to address issues. We want to, stop things from being problematic, but we also have to understand that it's going to be a process. And that, when you look at kind of the arc of history, if I go back to like, say, my grandmother's, her heyday, like say she was like, when she was a kid, then the idea of using separate bathrooms or water fountains, that was like the norm, and people were fighting to change that and felt like it would never come. Now that is something that, depending on what state you're in and what's happening with Department of Ed, it's something that appears in a textbook, and it's kind of a history lesson. Although I think there's some people trying to do some about that, but I digress. Another thing that I think is important is, of course, expand your skills. This is a great opportunity to like learn new things. Like, for example, if this last cycle, you're going to go like, wow, I'd really like to be better on the phones, or I'd like to, understand how like people like use this like van thing, then this is a great opportunity to do that. It's a lot of like trainings that are available. We're going to do our job to make sure you guys are aware of those trainings and know about those trainings, so that you can, definitely expand your skill set, because right now I would say it's very low impact. And we're looking at, rolling out a couple of programs throughout this year that will give PCs, volunteers, Democrats the opportunity to learn something new, practice it when it's a low impact thing. Because yeah, it's a lot more stressful to be expected to like knock on doors and do all this stuff, during the election cycle. But for like smaller things to kind of get your feet wet, that we kind of make it kind of a little bit less, less intimidating. Another one is stay informed but not obsessed. And I think that one kind of speaks for itself. Yes, we want you to, keep up to speed. We want to, folks should be reading the news, should be keeping up what's going on, their parts of, of what's happening. But we don't need you, up to like 2 a.m., like, going through, Twitter and all this type of stuff, because eventually that's going to burn out. So, it's okay not to know everything, or not to like have read every article. Which kind of brings us into the next part, is building relationship. This is a great time to get to know people. You have neighbors, you have, friends, you have folks who, are out there that have, the same kind of perspective on, what we do, democratic politics, progressive politics, things of that nature. So this is a great opportunity just to get to know them. Something that we've started, and our second vice chair, Michael Butts, is going to talk about a little more details. We started doing our month happy hours, our social hours, if you will. And, that's an opportunity just to hang out, get to know people, expand like your base. Like you might think like, I'm the only Democrat on the block. And you discover that like your entire neighborhood, there are a bunch of Democrats, and they thought they were the only one. So this is a great time to just kind of build those relationships. And then the last one is It's okay not to, try and be an expert in everything. If there is something that is important to you politically, it could be education, it could be healthcare, it could be criminal justice, it could be, it could be homelessness, any kind of particular issue. It's okay to just kind of be, kind of focus on that area. If you're the type of person that wants like to kind of, move around, know multiple things, that's cool too. But also, you don't have to feel like you have to be the expert on all things happening. If you're talking to your neighbors and they're going like, oh, hey, yeah, that's like the Democratic PC person that drops off stuff at our door, every other year. If they start asking you stuff that you don't really know anything about, don't feel bad. You're like, hey, that's something I'm still learning about. I'll have to, I know somebody, who could speak more to that. So the thing is, like, with all these little tips and tricks, the whole idea is we just don't want you to kind of get burned out, but also to get complacent. And so this is some recommendations that we kind of put together to think about that. So like I said, unfortunately, my report's going to be a little long because there's a lot of stuff going on, but like I said, we're getting to the end of what I got to say. So let's talk about bylaws. Fairly recently, your executive board, we participated in a meeting with ADP, and I'm going to give you guys the cliff notes of this whole thing. And so what what basically kind of the general gist of this is that in 2018 there was legislation passed that basically kind of changed the classification of political organizations. So LD11 is a political organization. And so really to get in, without getting too technical or too in the weeds with this whole thing, it basically kind of got to the jump that LDs are for I guess, and I'm paraphrasing a lot, independent political organizations. And so the general gist of that is that each LD has to have its own set of specific bylaws. Historically, and I'll go back to the LD 27 days, even up to like now, historically, what we've done is we've just kind of just followed the county bylaws. And if the county bylaws didn't really say anything about it, we use the state bylaws. We have not, as an LD, ever, to at least my experience with all this, had our own specific set of bylaws. Well, the thing is, we've got to create some. So to help us out, ADP, created a vetted template of bylaws, and they supplied those with to each of the chairs. And I've shared that with our executive board. We've actually kind of started the process of really kind of mapping out, what LD11 bylaws should look like. And so kind of how we've kind of looked at mapping out this process is going to kind of work like this. So your executive board, we're going to work on this document for the rest of the month. We're all kind of having like our own sidebar conversations, just kind of figure out like what makes sense, what from the template we want to keep, things that we don't think is necessary, getting a little advice from ADP on some of the, things that, kind of aren't clear to us, or kind of, get that kind of guidance from them. And so ultimately what we're going to do with that is our time periods, we're going to then take that draft that, kind of that first pass, if you will, and we're going to open it up to public comment and viewing from our PCs. So PCs, now, if you're not a PC, don't be offended. You're probably not going to get this email, but PCs, expect an email probably at some point, a little bit later in the month, that is going to, one, get into the very specifics of what's going on, that I'm kind of like, so I'm giving you guys a 30,000 foot view in this particular meeting. We'll kind of get into the specifics of kind of, why we're doing this and things like that, so you're fully informed. We're also going to share that template with you, and we're looking at probably a 1 month, give or take, period of comment where you all PCs will be able to look at this thing, ask questions like, what does this mean? What is this supposed to mean? What is this about? Offer like, well, I think, this should be something that's on there or not, things of that nature. One suggestion we got, and I'm going to credit our second vice chair with this, is he would like to get us all together to kind of, do a bit of a Q&A session. So we're just going to see if we can get something on the calendar in April to do that, so that, people can, we can dedicate specific time and like in real time to have this conversation, because this is an important thing. We're tentatively looking at, and like I said, this is tentatively because, depending on how this thing goes and, questions and, just life stuff, we're tentatively looking at doing an adoption vote at our May 10th LD meeting. What that basically means is that we've got to vote to, approve these bylaws, and then of course put them into effect, so that that'll be kind of our governing document for the LD. If, like I said, if you missed anything I just said, like I said, I'm going to send out an email that's going to obviously, be a little bit more information that I kind of got into tonight, but also a bit of like I say, summary of this information, as well as, like I said, later in the month, we'll of course hopefully have that template ready to go, or at least the first pass ready to go, so people can start looking at that. If folks have questions, I'm going to ask you to just put them in the chat, and then what I'll do is I'll try and answer them if I can during like the course of the meeting when, I'm not saying anything and stuff like that. So that's everything to do with the bylaws. I do want to talk about one last issue. I'm going to be very, very brief, because one, I don't want to spend a lot of time with this, and I also don't want to take away from, our guest speakers. But some of y'all share with me, and I guess an article has been floating around regarding MCDP, and I'm not going to get into specifics, because really that's not, that's not my place, and it's really not the time to really get into that. But what I do want to say just on that topic is that, yeah, the information is troubling, but I'm going to refer back to how I started the meeting about, not freaking out when you see information. Take the time to process it, maybe do your own fact checking, ask questions, the things that I covered at the beginning. But I do just want to say that, one thing I think we all have to remember in this type of work and these type of organizations is that at the end of the day, we are our reputations. And so what people think about us, what people, believe in us, what people say about us does matter. And that, it's important to understand that, without our reputation, without, people believing that what we do is, valuable, important, upstanding, then, it's really hard to do this type of work. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, cool. That's awesome. I don't recommend you start going down that rabbit hole. Just, keep doing what you do. If you are aware of what I'm talking about, then like I said, I would say use, your judgment, be responsible, and maybe use some of those tips and tricks that I shared earlier. So with that being said, I've talked way longer than I should have. I'm going to hand things over to our first vice chair, David Braun.
Actually, we have a couple of speakers.
And I think we just lost Dave's sound. I think you accidentally muted yourself, Dave. Could you start over?
Actually, I don't have a report tonight. We've got a couple of speakers, so I'll pass.
Okay, so that brings us to our second vice chair, Michael Butts. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Good evening. I'll be brief to give our speakers time to talk to us tonight. We had an amazing time at our last social event, and a lot of people showed out, and it was amazing. We raised some funds. We built new relationships, and so we had a couple of elected officials come through. And thank you to Ms. Signa Oliver that came through. Thank you to candidate Keisha Hodge Washington that came through. Thank you so much to anyone that came through, and we appreciate it. We're looking to build this up and have another social hour. We are creating a footprint in our district, and so we're going to be at Lolo's Chicken and Waffles for our next social event. Look out for that invite, and we're excited to see you all again out in the community. Also, as Mr. Chairman said about our PC process and getting you invited to join us on our meeting where we kind of give feedback on the bylaws that we are setting up for our district. And that's one of the great opportunities of being a PC, is that you get to have an influence in how we shape our district. And so no matter which candidate you're supporting in this runoff election for city council in our district, listen, we need your skills, we need your passions. And if you're on the team of one of those great candidates, we, after this runoff election, we're going to need those same skills and same passions for District 11. So keep that in mind. And we will be ramping up our PC recruitment. We just want to kind of give space for this candidate, Phoenix City Council candidate process. And so as soon as that race is over, we will be ramping up our PC recruitment process. And I think that is all I have as second vice chair. I will go ahead and turn it back over to our Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Second Vice Chair. Great information always. Again, like I said, everything that we're hitting up, we're making sure that gets into the chat. All right. So yeah, do you like writing things down? Do you like keeping records? Do you like to, I don't know, do secretarial type of stuff? Well, if you can answer yes to any of those things, we would love to have you join the board. We have an opening for a secretary. So if you're thinking like, hey, I want to get more engaged, I have those skills. I would love to be able to like frantically type while Patrick says stuff and then sometimes ad libs, what he was going to say and what he warned me ahead about, then you know what? This job is for you. So if you're interested, please reach out to me, shoot me an email. I'll drop my email in the chat. And we can definitely talk about like, what this job entails in more detail and things of that nature. So with that being said, we're going to drop, if you PCs, we just want to make sure we got good information for everybody, because even though we have your information from you, being an elected PC, and some of you guys who are appointed, you guys are good because we usually check that stuff before it goes in. But for some of you guys who have been longtime PCs, we want to make sure we have good contact information. So we're going to drop a link. So if there's any changes or like, you haven't like, you've been giving us your burner account and you're thinking like, I don't get into the emails anymore, then, this would be a great opportunity to update. And we don't sell your information to, too many other people. All right. So that brings us to, speaking of money, that brings us to our treasurer. Sadia, you are up. Hey, Sadia, you're still muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me start over. So our bank balance by the end of February was $1,362.06. For February, we raised $1,169. Almost all that came from Act Blue, and most of the money raised came from our social events. So I appreciate everyone who pitched in and everyone who became a recurring donor. And this last one, we also spent $409.41. And we spent it on like multiple monthly charges, like a mailing list, our Google website, our Zoom meeting fees, and our Act Blue fees. But however, there were some couple of fraudulent charges I saw this week, so we're trying to clear those up. And the reason, and I also want to point out the Act Blue money, the money we raised in Act Blue is not included in our bank account balance. Is because we deposited in March 3rd. So our actual balance right now is going to be a lot higher. Okay, and if you guys want, we'll give you a link if you guys want to donate. And please become a recurring donor. This will help elect Democrats up and down the ballot. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sadia. And somebody apparently tried to buy a PS4 with our money. So Sadia is awesome. She's a great treasurer. She caught that. She actually texted me this morning when she was like just double checking the books for the night and was like, hey, did you know? And was like, no. So thing is, like I said, thank you, Sadia, for catching this. And like I said, we're going to get that money back and, keep it moving. But unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where sometimes people buy stuff with somebody else's money. That brings us to our Sergeant at Arms. Mr. Branscombe, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to touch on two things this evening because I know we have some speakers. Nationally, we got some good news from the Biden administration that child poverty in the United States dropped dramatically last year. It's down to 5.2%. In some states, it's dropped at least a reduction of 40%. So they are looking into the House and the Senate to see if they can expand that tax credit to moving into the next fiscal year. Arizona right now, presently, we're hovering around 19%. After I Googled that today, that number might be a little bit lower, but I can't confirm it. But it shows that the policies and that child tax credit, giving more money to parents who need it and children, is helped reduce that child poverty in our country, and that's a great thing. On a local note, an article in the AZ Mirror was talking about how the Senate Concurrent Resolution Act 1034, basically the Republicans are trying to push a bill through to say that if we can't get a budget together, that we automatically go back to the current year's budget. And that's their way to try to avoid Katie Hobbs to veto the budget. They want to send that to the voters of Arizona. There was a law passed last year that said you only need I think 60% for anything passed if it was brought to the voters of Arizona. This resolution does not encourage any side to work with each other to come to a budget. I know one of the Democrats out of Tempe called this the lazy budget and said that, the Republicans are just trying to find ways to lock the Dems out of the process. So we should keep our eyes on that moving forward. One good thing though, Arizona has $2 billion surplus. So it's important that we at least have the two parties get together and figure out the way to help resolve some of our issues. And with that, that's all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Also, just drop some information about an opportunity with Senator Kelly's office as well. So definitely check that out. Like I said, it's a lot of information, but like I said, it's really good information. Okay, let's do some guest speakers. We got some special guests tonight, so we'll kind of start in order. My list might be different from theirs, so surprise. So we're going to start off with our first guest speaker. Her name is Ashton Adams. She's originally from Philadelphia, where she worked as a constituent services director for the Pennsylvania House member. She moved to Phoenix about 3 years ago to begin working for ADLCC in 2021 as press secretary. She's now serving as the communications director. So she's going to be here to present an overview of what ADLCC is and share some information about how the organization is working to flip the state legislature. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and turn things over to Ashton.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Am I allowed to share my screen or would you rather not?
Oh, you can now, so go for it.
Let's see. Okay. Slide. Okay, we'll just go with this. How about that? All right, can everyone see my screen? Perfect. So I want to talk a little bit at first about ADLCC's mission, but I want to introduce myself. My name is Ashton. I am the communications director at the Arizona Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee. That is a long acronym for basically the part of the Arizona Democratic Party that is focused on electing legislative candidates. So we are really focused on essentially delivering a Democratic trifecta here in 2024. And we only have a 1-seat deficit in each chamber. So we really believe that this is a great opportunity upcoming in 2024 to do that. And we are the only organization within Arizona whose sole mission is focused on electing legislative Democrats. So here's a little bit about our story. This is actually a really interesting story that I don't think a lot of people really know. In 2012, we were in the super minority, right? So Democrats only had 20 out of 60 members in the House and 9 out of 30 members in the Senate. I'll compare that to where we are now today, but I just think that's really amazing to point out to kind of where we were just about a decade ago. In 2015, Governor Katie Hobbs and then House Minority Leader, Dr. Eric Meyer, understood that we had to make progress. We had to go somewhere. So they decided that to found the ADLCC and work to elect legislative Democrats across the state. So since 2016, essentially, we have been picking up seats everywhere. We've been working in some of the toughest competitive districts, and we have made it to the point where we are almost 1 seat away in each chamber from tying and 2 seats away from flipping. And then last cycle, against a very difficult redistricting year, we held all of our progress. We held all of our seats, and we even had some really key wins, which I'll go over in a minute. You're probably wondering, why does this relate to me who's sitting in a blue district? And why does this matter to what I do on a day-to-day basis? It affects all of us, what's happening in the state legislature. I think that was a really great summary we heard earlier about some of these bills that are coming out of the state legislature that are really troubling for all of us. But the ADLCC is really making an intentional effort to reach out to every LD and to reach out to any candidate who is interested in running for office and supporting them on their way there. So this year, in what Patrick so eloquently titled an off year, we're doing a lot of candidate and LD support and as well as program support and training. So for all of you here in a blue district, we know that we need to definitely ensure that our LDs are very strong because it matters up ballot too. And one thing that we're doing alongside my colleague here, Jillian, is providing LD trainings. We're focusing on fundraising. We'll do a communications one down the line, and those are offered to every single LD. We do candidate trainings, right? So we have done 2 candidate trainings so far that's open to every single Democrat who's interested in running for the state legislature, no matter where they are in Arizona, which is really exciting. And program and communications support. So one of the things that I'm really excited to start doing is working really closely with the LDs who want to write letters to the editor and want to talk more about what's happening in the state legislature and kind of hold Republicans accountable for their actions in the paper. So I think that's a great way to do it. And I know other organizations do that too. Civic Engagement Beyond Voting is one that has done it wonderfully. So is Tucson Indivisible and other Indivisible chapters, but we're also providing additional support to LDs who are interested in doing that. And why all of this kind of matters in the grand scheme of things is that when ADLCC is successful and when our LDs are successful and we're able to flip that legislature, your 3 legislative Democrats who are all in a safe blue district will be able to pass legislation and we'll be able to get it signed by our governor who's now a Democrat. And I think that we all want that, right? We all want some a true change within our state legislature. The last thing I'll talk about is our work in practice, right? So some of the things that we do not only on an off year, but throughout into 2024. So we train our candidates. I talked a little bit about that, but we recruit and train candidates and we host those candidate trainings to make sure that everyone feels prepared to run for office. We help people fundraise and we talk a lot about fundraising. And that's one thing that we're going to be hosting for our LDs coming up this month. We build democratic infrastructure. So I know that I've met personally with Patrick and other chairs to talk more about how we can build democratic infrastructure, not only for this year, but beyond. So that's another thing that we work on. And obviously I'm the communications director. I work on clearly communicating that mission. So whether that be letters to the editor, whether that be social media, whether that be graphic design, we really try to help support not only our candidates, but our LDs do that in an effective way. One thing that I want to mention are some of our awesome key wins, and my screen is kind of hiding it, but we broke that GOP super majority that was back in 2012. We were part of breaking that alongside many different partners and groups like yourself to making sure that the legislature is as close as it is today. We held all Democratic seats in a redistricting year, which was extremely tough, but we couldn't do without all the support. We even gained ground in rural Arizona, which was a new feat for us. And we even organized to help the first Democratic governor in over a decade. The last thing that I will say before I'll hand it over to the other speakers, I just want to make sure that everyone has our contact information for myself and Jillian, who's my colleague here. We would love to help build out program support, anything that you as an LD need to feel like you are doing well or thriving within your programs. That's really what we're here for at the ADLCC. So please take our contact information, and yeah, it was a pleasure to meet with you all tonight. And that's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Ashton. Are there any questions anyone might have? We can drop those in the chat for Ashton. Questions?
Thank you all.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Ashton. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. If you have questions, hear stuff, just drop in the chat. We'll definitely make sure that we can try and get that question asked for you. All right. So next up, I want to introduce Raquel Mamani. She was born and raised in the beautiful border town Nogales, Arizona, as the mother of 15-year-old twins, bless you. She taught for 12 years in 3 different states, including special education and dual language Spanish. She currently works as a permanent substitute teacher. She got involved with Save Our School Arizona in 2017 and currently works as a community action team coordinator for the Central and South Phoenix area. She is passionate about advocating for schools and is anxious to collaborate with groups who have the same goal. So without further ado, Raquel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, LD11, for having me here. Yes, I am Raquel Mamani. I'm a teacher and a mom, and Patrick's words were resonating with me because I didn't know anything about school funding and vouchers in 2017, but then I started getting informed, and then I got obsessed, and now I'm back to kind of balancing that with, you know, staying informed and not staying in the obsessed part. And I do, again, I'm one of those people that education is a big thing for me. I am born and raised in Nogales, like he said, rural town, a product of public education. And so it's always been for me very clear how important our education system is here in Arizona. My children who are 15 have never been in a fully funded education system, and that is not okay with me. So that's why I joined Save Our Schools Arizona. And so I'm just here to talk to you today about what is sort of moving bill-wise in the legislature. I'm working off of the education report that Save Our Schools puts out for free every week. If it would be possible, I would love to just share that real quick, Patrick, to...
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen if you want to.
Okay, let me see. So I'm just gonna, can you all see that education report? So this is a report that you can get by email. You can request it by going to sosarizona.org. And you could see that we have everything. If you want to watch vouchers, I mean, that is what got me interested in what, you know, I kept wondering, like, why do we have to keep having all these bake sales? I was into my PTO. Been in education for years, but I just did not understand the funding part. And so when I learned about vouchers, it blew my mind and continues to do so. But here on this education report, we've got a voucher watch that we keep updated. But some of the great things in this report, it's a working report. It's not just one of those like boring old reports. These are the bills right here that we've been watching, and we do this RTS alert. But besides that, they come down here and we give you a little explanation about what's happening. You know, it's interesting to hear the Sergeant at Arms talk about a $2 billion surplus at a time when our school districts and schools are still being critically defunded, and they are not focusing on funding our education. Save Our Schools also puts out a lot of information that is very closely, it's research. Right now, Arizona faces a $4.5 billion yearly deficit compared to the national average. And what is our legislature doing? Instead of focusing on that, they are not. They are focusing on bills like Senate Bill 1182 that will allow private for-profit universities in Arizona to get taxpayer-funded financial assistance to students in teacher training programs, just more privatization. So we break it down right here. Senate Bill 1564, sponsored by Kaiser, it would mandate students in small private schools who use ESAs, that now they can go back to the school and use our public schools interscholastic activities. So remember, they've always talked about school choice and parental control. The choice was made. These parents made the choice to go to a private school where maybe there are no sports offered. Well, now they want to have their cake and eat it too, and come on back and have their students use our sports in our public schools. But they're not done. So this goes on and on. We've got Mr. Mesnard sponsoring, you know, bills that would impose $5,000 penalties for districts that don't post salary information. It's already required by law, but now they want to put $5,000 penalties, and it just goes from, you know, just continues to get more and more ridiculous. And at a time that we are, you know, living one of the worst teacher shortages in history, especially in Arizona, they're not focusing on any of that. They're focusing on more tax cuts for the rich. House Bill 2003, corporate, so, you know, corporate welfare. We're not, you know, happy with just, you know, regular welfare for the rich. We want to do some corporate welfare as well. So this wants to give more of our money away, even though we know that Arizona gives more money in corporate tax breaks than what we take in. They want to increase that. It goes on. Mr. Mesnard has a lot of time to think of these bills. And so again, he's brought up a bill, Senate Bill 1577, that says if we have a budget surplus in any given year, we must automatically cut income tax rates by 50% for the following year. And so this tells you just how terrible these bills are, but they just, continue. You could see Senate Bill 1331. It bans school governing boards from restricting or prohibiting the parents from carrying firearms. Right now we are in the middle of a huge culture war. I know my colleague Jean Castine, we've been fighting this together. We keep bumping into each other and all these places, but at a time when they keep talking about school safety and why, we need to give trans students their own bathroom, they are putting more weapons on campuses and forgetting to look at the leading cause of death in kids. So this report right here gives you all of the bills. If you're not registered for RTS, there's a link to go ahead and register for RTS. It tells you what bills are moving, where they're at. I won't go into it because they're more voucher expansion. So we know how devastating ESA vouchers are to our schools and to our economy. But there's not only ESA vouchers, there's STO vouchers, and you can see here that they are working to increase the amount of money that you can give to STO vouchers. That's when you take your little tax credit and are able to give your $400 to a public schools. Right now it's $2,400 to a private school, as opposed to the $400 that our public schools get. I've never been able to get a straight answer on that. We've got a ton of attacks on school boards, on school districts, on teachers. As Patrick was saying, we cannot sit back and say, oh, Governor Hobbs is gonna go ahead and veto these. We've got to make sure that we are RTSing, that we are emailing, calling, testifying in committee, so that we have the receipts to show that people did speak up against these, and this is not what the voters want. Obviously, we already said no to vouchers. In 2018, 65% of voters said no, but they did not care about that. So the universal voucher expansion is in full effect, and this is going to bankrupt our state. And at a time when, again, they fixed the AEL, they did a big victory lap on that, patting themselves on the back. But that's just for this year. That does not, so the countdown is on for devastation next year on our education system. And we've got legislators proposing these $10,000, raises for teachers that sound really great, but they're awful bills that are written terribly. And they are not hearing any of the bills that are brought up by our Democratic legislators that have actually been, worked on with stakeholders. So I could go on, but we do have community action teams. So if you want to get more involved, if you can just get this report, and this again is a report that is a working report. It's got links, it's got emails, it's got what you need to do right now, when you need to RTS. And if you want to join one of our community action teams, we've got people in the north all the way to the south. And we are working currently to support our school boards. Just a little plug, we'll be, I know probably Jeannie's going to talk about this, but we've been running school board to school board, to just support, to be there for our school board members who are being attacked for speaking up and saying things like, we are not a nation of white Christians, and they're saying things like diversity and inclusion, and they're saying things like, so tomorrow we will be at the Washington Elementary School District supporting that board, and a school board member specifically who has been, whose life has been threatened because of a vote that was a unanimous vote that they all took, but for some reason, she's been singled out. So Jeannie Castine is going to talk more about that. But I'm Raquel Mamani. We're Save Our Schools Arizona. We would like to be a a resource for the LDs. We are able to do a longer roadshow presentation in person, via Zoom, whatever you like, that will go a little deeper into this and can give you the history of vouchers and the devastation that they continue to have on our education system. So I'm going to cut it at that. And I know Jeannie will continue with more of the story. If you all have any questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat, as well as my phone number. Give me a call if you all need, and there's, again, go to sosarizona.org. If you need a presentation, everything you need is on our website, or you can reach out to me if you cannot find it. And I'll go ahead and put those in the chat while I say good night.
All right. Thank you, Raquel. Great information as always. Hey, these vouchers are absolute trash. I'm just gonna say it. Especially in communities like LD11. I mean, this is the type of stuff that cripples public education because, in communities like ours, public schools are the best option for many of the kids who live in our community. And, that money is getting pulled out of the system, going to people who, hey, I don't care where you send your kids to school. I don't care what you do. But like I said, if you want to buy a Tesla, buy a Tesla. However, I'm not going to pay for your Tesla because I don't want one. So we'll keep things moving here because I could go on a rant, and that's not why we're here. All right. So our next guest speaker tonight, I think you guys probably know her. She's a bit of a celebrity in this space. Jeannie Castine. She kind of give a little bit of her background. She's got a bachelor's degree in human communication and history from Hugh Downs School of Human Communication at ASU, and a master's in education also from ASU. Jeannie has over 11 years of experience teaching in Maricopa County Public Schools, and in 2011 completed the Emerge Arizona program, and in 2012 became a school board member of the Creighton School District. She served as board president from 2016 to 2020, and in 2020, Ms. Castine ran for Maricopa County School Superintendent and came within 12,000 votes of winning. She has been awarded the Arizona School Public Relations Association Award for excellence in advocacy and political contributions to education, as well as the Arizona School Board Association's All Arizona School Board Member Award. So obviously Jeannie has been busy. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand it over to Jeannie, and you've got the floor.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny because I don't think of myself as that kind of person. I just, I run whenever there's a need for somebody to run, unfortunately. I mean, because running for office is grueling and terrible, and I'm not a big fan of it, but I do it because when I see a need, I do it. But that said, I would like to see a bunch of young whippersnappers take over and do this job because it is grueling. So I'm here tonight as the executive director with Secular Arizona, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Here we go. Hopefully y'all can see that. I think y'all can see. Can you see that? Let me know. Thumbs up.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So Secular AZ, we are a small but mighty organization focused on the separation of church and state. And boy, oh boy, are we being kept busy by these Christo-fascists. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that because I don't think that we need to be apologetic anymore about delineating between Christianity and Christo-fascism. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that. We are Arizona's voice for the separation of church and state, and we're doing a lot of cool stuff. Right now, we have a series going on about criminal justice. And we got a lot of pushback at first, like, is this a secular issue? Should we be worried about it? But as you all probably have noted, I think it was in South Carolina, a pregnant person was charged, with a felony charge of, because she sought out medication that would terminate a pregnancy. And so we decided that we were going to throw our hat into that ring and really, observe the fact that there are so many people and so many organizations and so many municipalities that are trying to target these people. So right now we're in the middle of a great series of discussions about criminal justice and what that means. And so we're also focused on all these other issues, healthcare, reproductive rights, obviously, education, discrimination, tax policy. We also do a lot of advocacy work at the Capitol and try to allow for people to have their voices heard as much as we possibly can. We also have partnered with different advocacy groups throughout the state of Arizona to make sure that our voices are not being silenced. And as the previous speaker brought up, Raquel, we right now in Washington Elementary School District, for those of you who are not aware, I am an LD5 member. So for those of you who are in LD11, but in the Washington Elementary School District, there is a targeted attack on the school board members there who have stood up to fascism, to Christo-fascism, and they have said that they will not tolerate this contract that was ongoing for the last 11 years, blah, blah, blah. So we know that because of Fox News, that there's going to be a big movement at this Thursday night meeting tomorrow to attack a specific board member. And we're just going to wrap our loving arms around them and make sure that they're okay. So I encourage all of you to go to secularaz.org to make sure that you are aware of these attacks. We've scaled back our lobbying at the legislative level and instead are focusing on school board level, because that's where these white Christian nationalists are showing up at board meetings and even being elected. So if you want to get involved, I'm going to go ahead and share that in a second, but we have a lot of opportunities for people to be able to support school board members, because our rationale is that, as a former board member myself, that we can go ahead and get these folks elected and get them into office. But what they've told us is that they do not feel like they are supported once they get into office. So we want to make sure that we are supporting them at every turn. And so we're asking for people to get involved in their very specific regions to be able to support those school board members. And in Washington Elementary, there have been death threats. There have been all kinds of national attacks on these school board members, and we need people to show up to show support. They severed a contract with a Christian university, and the idea that a Christian university can hide behind their religion to justify their bigotry doesn't make sense to a lot of us. So I'm hoping that all of you will be able to show up and support that school board member. Also, in the Peoria Unified School Board District, there is a member who is quoting scripture, and she's defying her oath to the Constitution. And so we need people to show up in that district as well. Chandler Unified as well has school board members who are under attack and school board members who are defiantly adhering to Christo-fascist ideologies. So if you're interested in getting involved in this kind of work, here, let me go ahead and go to the next slide. We have all kinds of opportunities. We are a 501c3, C4. We advocate at the Capitol. We're focused more on school board stuff. And in the meantime, we have Secular Day at the Capitol that's going to be happening after the American Atheist Convention. We have three speaking opportunities within the American Atheist Convention. And what we want to do is try to focus on how we can support those people who are out there advocating for what all of our students, all of our constituents need. That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Jeannie? So they check the chat here. All right. As always, great to see you, Jeannie. Thank you for joining us. Lots of great information. I will throw this in is that, for those of you, and I know we say this a lot, but never, like I said, the teacher mantra is never assume someone knows a piece of information, is that school board members are not paid for this role. These are, I've always said, and there's probably a video of me saying this, or, somewhere I'm quoted saying this, but the thing is that school board members are probably the purest form of representative democracy, because these are individuals who are running for office, getting elected, governing, making decisions, and what, a school district, as far as the purpose, a small city. They're making decisions that are not too far removed from the type of decisions that are happening at the state legislature or U.S. Congress. And remember, these people are doing it because they're, the people who are doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because they care about their community, they care about the school district, they care about the kids. And so for those folks to have to go through this stuff is absolutely reprehensible. So if, like I said, if you can support folks at the Washington Elementary School District, heck, just reach out to your local school board member and tell them, you know what, you're doing a fantastic job. I believe in you. If you need anything, call me, and actually, answer when they do, then please do so. So enough of me on the soapbox. I want to get to our last guest speaker for the night. I really probably don't need to give this person a bio, but I think he'd be kind of slighted if I skipped him. So I would like to bring back or introduce Diego Rodriguez. I think you guys all know who he is. Of course, if you're not familiar with him, he is an attorney. He's also a former member of the Arizona House of Representatives, representing the former LD 27 from 2019 to 2021. He's a Notre Dame graduate, and he's also a James E. Rogers College of Law graduate. And of course, he's an all-around awesome dude. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn things over to Diego Rodriguez.
Wow. I appreciate that, Patrick. That was very generous of you in the description. Hello, everyone. It is really nice to be back with you all. It has been a while. I have to just sort of validate one of Jeannie's comments about how hard it is to run for office. She's absolutely right. It is amazingly difficult, especially in Arizona, and especially for a Democrat as well. But we are moving forward. But the reason I'm here to talk to you all tonight is because I am now part of a new nonprofit called the Institute for Equity and Justice, which I co-founded with former Representative Domingo DeGracia. And Domingo's from Tucson and I'm from Phoenix, and we're both attorneys. And when Mr. DeGracia decided that he wasn't going to run for another term, and he wrapped up his time as the whip of the Democratic caucus in the last session, and I moved on from my position in the state legislature, we were asking ourselves, what can we do to remain involved? What can we do to help the further development of our values and to support our values in Arizona? And what we have now created is the Institute for Equity and Justice. It's been a great meeting, and I'm not going to take too much of your time, but if you all are curious, you can go to the IEAJ.org, and you can check out where we are right now and the stage we are in our development. We're doing a lot of the same things that which you heard from the folks from SOS and which you heard from Jeannie as well, and the folks over at the secular organization, because quite frankly, we all share a lot of the same values. The Institute is unique because it, number one, was founded by two attorneys. Number two, two former legislators. And number three, once you've seen how the sausage is made in Arizona, particularly with how the Christo fascists, the regular fascists, the white nationalists, and just the election denying scammers conduct business in the Arizona legislature, it demands action. And so I'm extremely proud to be part of the Democratic Party. And I'm also very encouraged by what we've heard tonight from other speakers, because we are all moving in the same direction. And I can tell you folks, the pressure that the other side and the lack of morality, just the lack of integrity, the lack of honesty that the other side uses or really doesn't have a problem with is disturbing. And it is a blatant and outright attack on our democracy. They understand exactly what they're doing. And you heard Ms. Mamani talk earlier a little bit, made reference to the situation at the Washington School Board. And, a lot of that, folks, that attack on that board member is strictly based in racism. And I can tell you that because unfortunately, it's a common practice amongst the Republican Party in Arizona. I completely agree with what Janine just said, which is we need to take off the gloves. There is no compromising with people who are unreasonable. There is no reasoning with people who do not believe in objective truth, honesty, or have any integrity. When they're only motivated by power, then the ball's in our court to decide how we are going to respond based on our values. If you go to the website, you're going to see that the three things that we intend to use the Institute for is one, community education, and it goes along the same lines that you've heard from the other speakers. We're available to help out folks with their groups, with consulting with them on issues that have to do with soup to nuts in the legislature. The things that we learned in our time in the legislature would be wasted if we didn't try to give back to our communities and give back to the state of Arizona by sharing our knowledge and our experience with you all. The other thing that we're looking to do is to also help strategic policy development. And you've heard SOS, Ms. Mamani on behalf of SOS and Jeannie on behalf of the secular organization, talk about policy and how do we change policy and how do we influence policy. What the Institute hopes to do is to help be a part of the development of a strategic vision that uses our values as Democrats and as Americans who still believe in honesty and integrity to help build a better Arizona, a more equitable Arizona. Folks, I'll remind you that the other side gets triggered when you use the words diversity, equity, fairness. They even get triggered by the word community half the time. And so what does that tell you? That tells you that their interests do not lie with our interests, because they are incessantly and unrelentingly trying to hoard money, power, and resources. And it's a threat to us all. And so moving forward, what the Institute hopes to do, again, is use our experience as legislators and attorneys, as legislators and attorneys, to help shape a strategic vision and a strategic plan for all of us who believe in the values that we share. And then finally, and I think this is the one that folks are going to be in the long run most excited about, we are going to start suing people. And by that, I mean, we are going to start drafting lawsuits, challenging the illegal and unconstitutional things that the Republican majority does in this state. Another term for it is called impact litigation. So an example would be a complaint that we're working on right now is challenging the House and Senate, their decision to disregard the Arizona records preservation, public records statutes, and the fact that they've authorized themselves to delete emails as they see fit. And folks, those are public records. If someone is using their email to help form public policy, those are public records. But now we have a Republican legislature that has decided that the rules don't apply to them. And folks, that's also because we have a state Supreme Court that is dominated by folks from the Goldwater Institute. And they have crafted a legal ruling that basically says, unless the legislature agrees to have a statute applied to it explicitly within the terms of the statute, that the legislature can essentially disregard the application of a statute based on their position as a co-equal branch of government. So just think about that, folks. You have a legislature in Arizona dominated by extremist Republicans, Christo-fascists, regular fascists, white supremacists, white nationalists, and they are now able to decide which statutes that will apply to them and which statutes will not apply to them. And that is why we need an organization like the Institute for Equity and Justice, because we know that the only thing that they will respond to is, at the end of the day, the force of law based upon the actions that we will start against them in our courts. So moving forward, if you folks have any questions, I'll put the contact information into the chat. I just wanted to reach out, give you all just notice of what we're doing. Keep your eyes open. If you have an idea that you think that is worthy of a discussion about some discrete act of our state government or decision of our state government that you think should be challenged in court, please don't hesitate to reach out, because there are many ways to do this. And quite frankly, on the other side, the Goldwater Institute has been very successful in not only advancing their values in this state, but also in drawing attention to the values that they believe in. And now it's our turn. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Jeannie, please reach out. I know that there's plenty to do on the secular side as well with the violation of the separation of church and state. We'd love to sit down and talk with you guys as well, because it is a process and it is a strategic plan that we all have to be a part of if we're going to start taking down this corrupt and inequitable system in Arizona. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Diego, for all that. Okay. Thumbs up if you can hear me, because yeah, I had an internet hiccup on my end.
We can hear you now.
Okay. All right. That was weird. Okay. So sorry about that, folks. Like I said, anything could happen. So I don't know if anybody heard anything I just said, so I just won't repeat it because it wasn't that interesting anyway. But thank you, Diego, for the information you shared with us. We're gonna transition into our elected officer report. So I see Senator Miranda. I'm gonna go ahead and hand the virtual mic over to you to share any updates you have for us.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Patrick. I'm literally in my car right now. I just left the Capitol. I just caught probably the last 3 to 5 minutes of Diego's message, and it caught my attention because we need his agency. I need to learn more of what I missed with his message. There is a lot going on at the Capitol. They're making rules. I mean, just as we sit there, all of a sudden there's a new rule. At first, I was very excited about being in the Rules Committee, because I thought, wow, okay, all the bills are going through there. And that committee determines if the bills are constitutional or unconstitutional. And it's just so disheartening because at least every Monday that we have that committee, there's at least 10 bills that are definitely unconstitutional, but because they're the majority, they go through. So I do want to talk to Diego more. If, like I said, I'm sorry I missed his whole speech, but it sounds like they're going to keep the legislature accountable through the courts. And I would love to start off with our Rules Committee, because that is the committee where we need to stop the unconstitutional bills. Besides that, an overnight rule that they created was any Democratic bills that go through the process and are ready to hit the floor, they all of a sudden created a rule that each Democrat in the House has to have 16 Republican votes with their signature on a piece of paper. So in the Senate, there's only one Democratic bill alive, which is mine, and it's a homeless bill. It's headed to the floor, so I'm anticipating I'm going to need 9 signatures from Republicans. I mean, it's just horrible. They're just making us jump through hoops. And, you know, I said from day one to our Democratic caucus, we have just as much power as they do. They have the majority by 1, we have the governor, and we don't have to play defense anymore. We can actually play offense because we do have equal power. We're now entering the budget time. As Diego knows what that means, the whole game changes. But from day one, I let the Republicans know, you know, you're creating the precedence of how we're going to move forward. Because the first, second week of session, they created this nominations committee. They turned in the budget, some skinny budget. And so they did create the precedence of how we were going to move forward. And now we're facing budget time. And I don't like to be negative, but it is a mess. It's we're both gridlocked. It's just polarized right now. And I'm usually very good at getting along with the other side, but it's not a, you know, and I'm still going to continue to try to do that, but it's just different dynamics now. It's probably the worst that I've ever seen it. So I'm sorry I don't have better news right now, except that we're a united caucus, and we're just going to fight very hard for our district.
All right. Thank you, Senator Miranda, for the update. I guess, you know, what's the old saying that, you know, the good news is there's no more bad news. So with that said, like I said, you know, what we have to do is, like I said, we have to, you know, we got to push back. And the biggest thing is we have to get people who are sitting on the sidelines, you know, the voters, the general public to, you know, to get on board with like some progress here. So thank you for your report, Senator Miranda. If anyone has questions, we're starting to kind of run up against time. So I'm going to ask that if people have questions, we'll get them in the chat. And I know she's driving. So like I said, we'll definitely, like I said, try and get that question to her so she can answer it. If, like I said, you know, we can do that. So let's see who else. I see Signa Oliver, one of our school board members. Since we've been talking a lot about school boards, I think it's only appropriate that we have a school board member let us know what's going on.
Okay. It's getting rough around these parts, but we will survive and we will thrive because, as been noted already, we're not being paid to do this. We're being paid because, or we're doing this because it's our labor of love. We want to see our community thrive. Yes, if you can support my fellow board member at Washington Elementary School District, I don't know if everybody knows that it made Fox National News, and that person is getting threats from throughout the country. Those of us that are her compadres, we're supporting her in personal ways behind the scenes, but if you all can show support for her, that would be great. Phoenix Union, we're gonna try to start making some upgrades and some changes. I definitely need to hear from community members when I make a vote and you have a question about it. Always reach out to me and I will respond. We had a vote last week on extending off-duty officers, and if anybody attended that meeting, it got really raucous, and that was strange for me. And I've had meetings with some people and some organizations in the community and got their feedback on why the reaction was what it was, because I was quite surprised. I'll say this, I'm not here for politics. I'm here because people, somebody did this for me years ago. So I'm going to make sure that, you know, I'm making informed decisions on behalf of the community that sent me to Phoenix Union High School District, full stop. And so, again, hold me accountable, ask me questions, because there are things that we know behind the scenes as school board members that we discuss in executive committee meetings that we can't, you know, talk about in public, that have given me pause for concern. And so when I have those concerns, I have to, you know, slow things down and make sure that we're making decisions based on information that is accurate and factual. So, but I thank everybody for your support. I thank you for letting me speak really briefly, Patrick. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
All right, thank you, Signa, and again, thank you for the work that you're doing, you know, on behalf of like the kids and the educators and everybody at Phoenix. You know, we appreciate you, and like I said, we got your back. All right, we're getting in the home stretch here, so I'm gonna kind of, this is gonna be the lightning round of information that we're gonna move into announcements. First things first is, if you haven't been, you know, following the news, and I know nobody on this call like pays attention to politics or anything like that, but there are more voters who are not Democrats statewide, or I guess, you know, countywide. In LD11, like I said, we're a blue district. So yeah, we're, you know, the Democratic voter registration is like, you know, way our way, but that's not true, you know, when you take the entire county as a whole. So we have a really awesome voter registration committee. And I know one of the members is on the call. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, Judy. I think Judy's still here. But we do have an awesome voter registration committee, and we are LD11. We're looking for someone who's willing to be our liaison to that committee. That the voter reg committee is asked for liaisons from each LD to participate, and so we want to get somebody to, you know, help you know, be engaged with that. And we want folks to be able to, you know, we don't want to take for granted the Democratic voters in our district. But the thing is that like voting is like taking care, or voter registration is like taking care of like plants. The thing is, the minute you stop watering it and you stop taking care of it, it kind of withers away. So I'm going to drop the email for the LD in here. So if you have even the smallest bit of interest, you want to learn more, or you just want to see what they do, let us know. We'll get y'all connected to be a part of that committee. The other quick announcements from our from the state party, and this is something Ashton actually hit upon, is a letter to the editor. They're doing a letter to the editor training for people who are interested in learning how to do that, the strategies and things of that nature. We'll go ahead and drop information for that in the chat. Of course, everything we're talking about will be in the newsletter. So like I said, this is the lightning round. So if you miss it, you can always watch it on our recap. With that being said, we're going to transition over to announcements. If you have any announcements, please unmute and give your announcement. Please keep it to 1 minute, because our Sergeant at Arms is quick on the trigger with the mute button. So please, you know, drop your, or I guess, you know, present your announcements.
Are there any announcements?
Oh, I see Keisha, she has her hands up. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to quickly remind those individuals that reside in District 8, that is, the runoff election is on March 14th, next Tuesday. If they have not already voted, or encourage those that reside in our district to go ahead and please do so on or before the deadline. Early ballots, actually at this juncture is no longer recommended that they mail them in, but that they vote in person at either at City Hall on the 10th or at the poll at our voting centers on the 11th, 13th, and 14th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other announcements? Please do an announcement. I'm trying to type and frantically, so that gives me a minute to get that done. Okay, announcements going once. Announcements going twice. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm reading this on behalf of Nicole Miller. You see, her announcement is the MCDP Latino Outreach Committee is meeting next Wednesday at 6 o'clock virtually. Awesome. If you could get that information to us, we'll get that in our newsletter. Oh, I guess this next Wednesday. So yeah, we'll get it into our newsletter. So please share that with us so we can get that information out. Oh, hey, and she's dropped Mobilize in there too. So we'll put it in a newsletter and you can get the Mobilize tonight. So awesome. You can RSVP. Thank you, Nicole. All right. Any other announcements? Okay, awesome. Again, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you. We appreciate, the work that all of you guys do and, just being informed with what's going on with LD 11 and, all the things that are happening. We want to make sure that we can see y'all in person for our District 11 social hour. That'll be Thursday, March 23rd. So we want to see, get your chicken and waffles on, or, I don't know, a side salad, whatever your jam is, it's all good. But we definitely want to, hang out, socialize, support a locally owned business in the district. So with that said, it's great seeing you guys. Be safe, take care of one another, be good human beings, and we'll see you next time.